is that apart from saying to him, make sure you put the ball over the line, we did everything that we possibly could do to win that game. Statistically, plan-wise, all like I said, when you don't get a picture unless you was here of how actually wet the day was, and we still played some fantastic rugby. It was pouring down with rain all day. Almost 90% of the game was played in a constant downpour, and we still played some rugby. Like I say, we should have scored we should have been 18 points on the board before we got an opportunity, and it's pretty hard to take because as a result wise, but for performance and what we did, I'm pretty pleased with some of the stuff that went on.
Mm-hmm. Players must have been a bit sick, mustn't they?
I think we've been like that this year 3 or 4 times. It's one of those, probably that's that next hurdle to get over, where you have to turn those really good performances and be a little bit more ruthless and clinical at key moments in that. When you're building pressure, understand why you're building pressure, and don't get into the panic of needing to score on every single play when you've not scored. I think that's one of those things that we talk about as a team, but it's a experience that we're going through this year of understanding that it's hard saying don't score tries but build pressure when the game's about scoring tries. But I think we become a bit fixated with creating the scoreboard than creating opportunities.
And I suppose the shame of it is that you'd look quite comfortable in the 8, wouldn't you? Relatively comfortable.
We've been there 3 or 4 times, and you know that as well. We've been there 3 or 4 times this year. If we knock off the 3 games that we're leading with 5 minutes to go, we're instead we're 5th, and probably knocking on 4th. Like I say, we lost 2 or 3 games in the last second, and we're clear on another couple of games. So it's about now, like I say, taking the control of these last 4 games. One more win gives us an 8, I believe. 18 points, but our points difference will give us an 8. That's because out of the 4 sides below us, OKR will have to win 3 or 4, and if we win 1 more, they'll have to win 4 or 4. Everybody else has to win all games if we get 1 win. So we know that it's in our own hands really over these next 4 weeks.
Cup this week. Warrington, the last couple of games, to be fair, and Tony Smith certainly wasn't very happy when I spoke to him on Friday night. Their form hasn't been great over the last few weeks, but this is a different game.
It is, and the form wasn't great when they came here last time, and we felt we had an opportunity last time they came here, and they bullied us, they ran over the top of us, and they just dominated the game with both skill and physicality. So it's a derby. It's one of those real simple things, and you use it all the time with Challenge Cup. It's like there's no tomorrow. It's the loser leaves the room. It's like that kind of mentality where everything can change on that afternoon. Sometimes it's nice when you're at home because it gives you that good feeling, but these kind of games aren't built on home and away. They're built on which team turns up with the attitude and willingness to be fearless in their approach with the ball and to be ruthless without it.
I suspect the nature of the way they beat you here in that game will give you the clue as to how they're going to approach this game up front, especially because they were very physical in the pack, weren't they?
Yeah, they're physical. That's Warrington. You look at through Sims and Hill, Curry, and now having Westerman in there with a bit of a ball player. The challenge as well, like I say, with Benny Westwood is that he leads that physicality battle as well. So we know it's going to be aggressive, and across their team there's going to be people that are very confrontational. That's the way they play, but they also play with a swagger and a confidence of offloading and willingness to try things. So it's like one of those, you've got to be emotionally attached to making sure the contact's right, but also smart enough to be able to pull yourself out of that, to be able to deal with what's next.
Obviously going to be difficult for a side like Widnes at your stage of development to get to the Super League Grand Final, but you look at the Challenge Cup each year, it's 4 games, is it, to get to Wembley, and that must excite the players, the possibility.
Well, that's what it does. It does that kind of thing. You look at it from the start. This year it's 5 games in, there's a chance of being in the final. So you get a little bit of luck with a draw, you get a little bit of luck on a day. You could be in a final of a major trophy, and I think then they've structured this year and last year as well is the fact that you get to the stage and predominantly it's Super League battles and tough ones. And like I say, you look across the whole of the quarterfinals, and there's some pretty tasty games in there. And I think this one being one of them, with a local derby between two sides that have actually, we've not got a bad record against each other over the last couple of years. And Warrington have been a dominant side in the competition over the last 6-7 years. But our record since we've been back in Super League, especially after the first couple of years, has been pretty strong. So if we're on our game and our selection and players are fit and our selection's good, then we've got a real good chance of winning against the odds, really, when you look at the opportunity we've got, where they're sitting at the table, the recruitment that they've made over the last 2 years, and like I say, the history of the last 5 or 6 years, and the confidence that they've got in that thing. Then we go in there as underdogs, but we go in there knowing that we've got the game and the ability to be able to get a win.
You've got a few special talents in that Warrington team, haven't they? You look at Chris Sandow on his day, special talent. Ben Curry, I think he was at your England meeting last week. He was in one of the form second rows for a couple of years now, so there's some real strike power in that.
There's lots of talent. The talent in their team is really easy to see. I think, like I said, Clark went there, Man of Steel last couple of years, he's found his feet, he's starting to find some of the form that he showed at Castleford. I think the rotation with Dwyer is very good as well. He's come back and have some injury and he's really dangerous. I think Steph Ratchford is one of those players where he does that much good stuff now, you just sort of like push him to one side, it's just normal. I think he's very dangerous. Well, again, the foundations of the team is built on their energy and their effort to compete, both with and without the ball, and their willingness to work hard. I think, like I say, Sandow's that little bit of magic dust on the team. I think Kurt Gidley's been the real steel rod that's run through the time this year. When you watch them play and you see him barking at people and pushing people around and getting the best out of them, cajoling them into what they need, I think that's one of those things that probably they lost since Lee Breers stepped away. Somebody to grab hold of the game and tell people what to do and when to do it. His kicking game's really strong, he turns the ball over in the right places. So I think Kurt Gidley's been probably the buy of the year.
You've got a great personal history in the Challenge Cup, Dennis, haven't you? Winning it. Did you win Lance Todd 1 year, 2? Is it still a special competition to you? Some people would seem to want to downgrade it somehow, but is it still special to you?
I don't know who wants to downgrade it. Have you got
Michael,
some names?
Yeah.
Well, no, the game is built on there. I'd say you have to work hard. It's like most things in the game. You expect, because it's always been there and because of the trophy itself, that it's always going to be special. It's probably like a marriage in the sense that it's not always nice. It's like you got to work at it. You got to make it into something that's worthwhile. I think we lost our way a little bit. I think the changing it coming away from Wembley for a number of years was one of those periods. I think now we're starting to find that it's back, and it was always going to take time, and it's not something that happens in 4, 5, maybe even 10 years where you build the history back up again. When we changed from winter to summer, and when the competition changed and the grand final became the pinnacle of the year, the Challenge Cup did lose its place in the hierarchy of the game, just because of where it fell and what it meant. But I think that's changing again now, going back to Wembley. The emphasis being put back onto by the clubs. It's a major trophy that sides want to win. I think we're starting to find now it's starting to hold that little bit more gravitas again in what it is. And there was a time, and I think it's easy now to talk about that 3 or 4 years when it was on the road, and then the change of time when it was pushed into the middle of the season. It was sort of downgraded as a pinnacle point in the year. I think pushing it further back towards the end, the competition now where it sits just at the end of the first break before you're just starting this the big period in the 8s. That it's got a main focus, and then it's down to the teams. I know Leeds last year, it was really important to them, the way they went about it. The year before, it meant something to them. So it's about the clubs and how they drive it. But I think it became easy just to dismiss it because of where it sat in the table, and it wasn't at Wembley anymore, and the whole emphasis going back into what the grand final was. I think I'd still like to see it push towards that point of the year where it's virtually at the end again. I think maybe you could work out some way of falling into that gap between the playoffs and the grand final. But then again, like I say, it's putting more games in on. It's putting too much stress at the end of the year. Because effectively that's what it was, wasn't it? Really, it was the grand final for a number of years because the league was so important. And by the time the Challenge Cup came around, you knew who'd won the league, who were the champions. Inevitably, it was mostly Wigan. You'd come into the playoffs the week before, but everything was the emphasis then was on before the playoffs started and the Premiership final, as it was then, got underway. The Challenge Cup was virtually the end of the season.
How are you fixed team-wise for injuries this week, Dennis? Did you pick up any that you know of in the...
Yeah, we're all right at the moment. Like I say, good bumps and bruises, but we seem to have rolled injuries over the last 2 or 3 weeks. Like I say, which is fortunate because there's not a lot of lads coming ready to come back into contention. Like I say, we're still waiting on Chris Houston after his illness, but I think he's looking a lot better. It seems like he looks like his normal self again now. The swelling's gone out of his head, so he's probably going to train. He trained over the weekend, came through okay. We'll lift the intensity up in him now just to see how he reacts to that this part of the week. But hopefully Chris could be in contention. Sarah the same, we're just having a look at him and see how he responds when the intensity of the training goes up the next couple of days.
No O'Carroll or Marsh still?
No O'Carroll or Marsh.
And Jack Buchanan's okay for playing, isn't he? There's no cup tie issue. He's not too late to register for the deadline. Doesn't he still have a deadline? I don't even know. No. He can play anyway.
Yeah.
How did your meeting go for you, England? Was it productive?
Went really well. Wayne was fantastic. Just told everybody what he was expecting, what he wanted. Pretty straight down the line. I thought the response and the people in the room was great. I think that's what Wayne carries with him. He carries that when he speaks. Listen, like I say, it's not like he's saying anything different. He's saying what most of them know. But the reality is that it's Wayne Bennett saying it to you, and he's the national coach, and he held the room really, really well, and I think like I say, I was pretty pleased. So you could see in the, like I say, the tension in the room and the just electricity that was flowing through it. It was nice to be part of. I think that's what being involved with international rugby is about. It's just that anticipation, and if you hit the right forms and you do the right things, then Big Brother's watching you, so to speak.
They've listed in the paper there who they believe to be been at the meeting, but I presume that's not a closed shop, is it? That's not the. It wasn't the squad per se, was it?
No, well, if it was a bloody big squad. When you take the Aussie kids into it as well, it was just names of people that have got an ability to play international rugby this year. So the Wayne's big thing is the door's not closed on anybody. If you're outside that group now, it doesn't make a lot of difference. The people that were there have got a little bit of record and have got a little bit of form and the ability to take that next step. And that's, like I say, it was a large number of people that were there when you take into account the Aussie boys as well. But I say you turn a finals run into some fantastic form, then Wayne will be watching. And that's my advice, and I said it's not a closed shop for anybody.